Meet sailing yacht Avanti and her crew, Gerard and Jacqueline. We left Cape Town in December 2021 on our floating home, heading west on an adventure of a lifetime around the world.
At sunrise we arrive at Rinca Island. This forms part of the group of islands that are home to the Komodo dragon and the famous city Labuan Bajo, the gateway to the Indonesian islands of Flores.
We have to run! We've launched the dinghy after just setting down anchor and there's a dragon on the beach. Let's go find it. Rinca is one of the islands that Komodo dragons still roam freely. At this point, all we knew about them was that they have a very poisonous bite, can run faster than you'd think, climb trees and can even swim, although they don't like that since it drops their body temperature.
They can grow up to 3.1 meters long, can live up to 30 years, and typically hunt pig and antelope and only eat one large meal per month. At the end of our dinghy safari, we saw 7 of these magnificent animals, from small to large, but sadly roaming on trash-littered beaches.
Really cool. We planned to go snorkeling and we saw a turtle and a ray and the corals look really cool, but unfortunately the water's just too dirty to really go snorkeling. Doesn't look appetizing at all.
At least we saw 7 dragons.
7 dragons, a turtle and a ray and lots of fish. It's cool. It's a really cool stop.
Since we saw what we came here for all before 9 AM in the morning, we lifted anchor and headed to the next island, Komodo Island itself, which is the main island in the group. We're hardly moving. We just left Rinca, or the anchorage in Rinca, and when we got in here this morning it was relatively calm, but now the currents here are extremely confused. So we're doing like 2.93 speed over ground and our boat speed is 5.5, and yeah, it's like a washing machine. We through the worst now, hopefully. Yeah, it wasn't expected.
We barely dropped anchor before the locals brought their goods to sell. It's hard to say no when they come with their boats from distant villages. Thank you!
Thank you very much, guys.
We've thrown anchor in Komodo, the largest Komodo Islands bay, where the tourists normally come in overnight, just on the opposite side of where the park entrance is. So it's just us in the bay, but today was really scary or eye-opening how much trash is in the water. We were warned, and Gerard and I have both been to Thailand, so we had an idea about how much trash could be in the water, but being in the more remote places where not a lot of the tourists' boats go, like the area we saw the Komodo dragons in this morning is not where the tourist boats go, and it was just so full of trash, and there's no attempt, or it looks like to me, no attempt to clean it up, and it just puts a bad taste for the rest of Indonesia. There's so much to do and there's so much natural beauty. It's such a waste for it to be so full of trash. I don't understand how you live in a place that's that dirty and you don't want to clean it up. I don't know. It's culturally a very difficult or different situation, their feeling towards trash.
just weighed anchor at Komodo Island on our way to Labuan Bajo. So there's a massive current through these straits going north, and you have to time it right. So we've used the windy currents, and hopefully our timing is right, because yesterday when we came in we went with the current and there was like 3 knots and it was quite turbulent in some areas. So we have to catch it with the slack tide and with the tide going north.
What a beautiful morning. The first night's sleep after passage is always very lumpy, or not. I don't sleep well the first night because I'm kind of getting used to not waking up in the middle of the night. But last night we just slept for dead. I didn't wake up once, which is really awesome. And yeah, it was a really calm night. We had a little bit of rain, so it was nice and cool. And yeah, we just slept for dead. And now we are on our way to Labuan, which is known for also being very dirty, but it'll be our first. I think it's at least a little bit touristy. There's a lot of tourists coming through there, coming to these Komodo Island islands for the snorkeling and the dragons. So we'll see some tourist activity, hopefully, or not hopefully, we will see it. And that should mean it will be a bit cleaner.
According to the cruising guide, these currents in these straits can be quite hectic, but they do underplay it a little bit, I think. At the moment we are motoring at like 5 knots, so we're doing 2 knots speed over ground. Our timing was according to the current shown on windy, and obviously they're not right. We should have a slack tide now, and then it should turn flowing south to north with us as we go into Labuan. But yeah, it's not the case. I also read on the internet somewhere that you're supposed to use like the moon tables to see when the current is going to be setting north or setting south. But we don't have moon tables on board. I suppose we can Google it. But we're here now and we're doing 2 knots. Hopefully it turns in the next bit, maybe windy. Windy is maybe just a bit off, but according to windy it should have turned just as we got out of Komodo Bay. So holding thumbs that it doesn't get stronger, because then we might stand still.
With no wind at all the turbulence you see on the glassy water is from the currents.
Seems like the tides have turned, or the current maybe, it's a better word. So about an hour and a half later than windy predicted, which is not too bad. We've been doing averages of like 2.5, then it went to 3.5, and we're doing speed over ground of like 5.5 now. So yeah, it's definitely slack tide now.
Labuan Bajo has a very busy bay and harbour, with day tours and cruisers coming and going every minute. We opt to anchor in front of a hotel that's cruiser friendly, and they even let us park Blasopi on the beach a few kilometers out of town. I'm doing my happy dance on the way to land for the first time in 9 days.
My first bintang here in Indonesia. They're quite famous. You see all the guys coming here with their bintang t-shirts and wife beaters. So you get a big one here, 620 milliliters. And I'm very excited to taste it. It's a Pilsner, so I expect it to be quite a bitter lager. And it's got 4.7% alcohol in it. And the cost, yeah, we just anchored off a resort and we brought the dinghy in. So I expect them to be cheaper in the shop, but the cost is about 95,000 Indonesian rupee, and that equates to about 120 rand. So a little bit pricey, but in the shop it will probably be cheaper. Cheers. It's quite light, not that bitter. I would expect the Pilsner to be a little bit more on the bitter side, but it's very refreshing, especially in this heat. So rating for this one, considering that the cost will be less in the shop, I would give this Bintang Pilsner 6.5 out of 10. 6 rand for one. Yes.
Gerard has a Coca-Cola drinking problem. Not a fan. And now it's cheap. It's not a good thing. Our first stop in the supermarket is a good one though. There's lots of cheap stuff. And beers for Gerard is only like 25 rand a beer if we buy in bulk. So it looks like we're going to have some good meals and good times in Indonesia.
Renting a scooter in Indo is very cheap. At 100,000 IDR per day, it's our preferred means of transport. To make sure we have enough fuel for the next jump to Lombok, we fill one jerry can with diesel and truck it around with the scooter. Diesel in Indonesia, or fuel for that matter, is quite complicated. We figured out that you get subsidized fuel or subsidized diesel called solar, which has quite a high sulfur content and is not great quality. Further than that, you get Dex Light, which is lower in sulfur content, and then you get Dex, which is the best fuel on the market, and that's the ones we need for our engine, or we prefer to get for our engine. Some of the petrol stations do not always have Dex, so sometimes it's quite challenging to find it.
Next week we explore like tourists, hiking and snorkeling our way through the area. If you enjoyed this week's video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, share or subscribe. They really do go a long way to helping us. Thank you to our Patreons who support us monthly. We couldn't have done it without you.